asking my professor if we do drills, and then being told that no, if it is going on, it is a real situation. I may be an Apalachee alumni, but I will still fight for the future of the kids of the Barrow County school system and in the state of Georgia, due to my two youngest siblings still being students in the school system. Today, our community will remember the four we lost to such a senseless act of gun violence. Cristina, Irimie, Coach Richard Aspinwall, Mason, and Christian did not deserve this. And now we must honor them by being kind to one another, supporting one another, and hoping for a better and safer tomorrow. I will continue to use my voice for those that do not feel comfortable speaking on our shared experience for the sake of the students and teachers all over the world. Now until forever, we will be Barrow County and Apalachee strong. Love did prevail, and love will continue to prevail. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Sasha Contreras, a current senior at Apalachee High School, who was in class during the shooting on September 4th.
Good morning. My name is Sasha Contreras, and I'm a senior at Apalachee High School. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. 1 year ago today, my friends, my teachers, and myself lived through a tragedy that still affects us. My memories of that day are blurry, but I clearly remember the morning before everything happened and the afternoon that followed. I was in Mrs. Irimie's class just an hour before she was killed. That day, she helped us with our lesson and talked to us more than usual. I left feeling happy to have seen a new side of her, not knowing it would be the last time. After first period, I was in Spanish class when we suddenly went into hard lockdown. Thinking it was a drill, we acted accordingly. Our teacher told us it was just practice to keep us calm, but through whispers and Apple Watch alerts, we realized it was real. I panicked since our phones were kept in our backpacks across the room. A classmate of mine let me use hers so I could text my mom, who was also in the building, and my sister, who was working from home. As we evacuated, I grabbed my phone and left with my class, grateful we were near an exit. On the way to the field, I remember the sinking feeling of our reality. I started crying in desperation to find my mother while being held up by two other students. After reuniting with my mom, the rest of the day became a blur. I just remember the surreal moment of learning that Mrs. Irimie was one of the victims who didn't make it. Upon our return and the following months throughout the school year, my motivation and will to be on campus diminished. After September 4th, 2024, our community was never the same. However, in that change, we had newfound community and made new lifelong bonds. Our advocacy this past year allowed us to connect to hundreds of people in this fight for a better tomorrow for the students and teachers of Georgia. We hope to continue empowering students and teachers across the state. On my first day of senior year in the beginning of August, it only felt like a long weekend away and a continuation of my junior year. The last few weeks have been difficult. Even now, my motivation and ambition haven't been the same. Despite that, I know that my peers and I are excited to make a positive impact on our community this year. So far, many of our clubs have had amazing turnouts and with eager students, which shows that despite all our hardship, we are ready to be involved with the community. To this day, my classmates and friends put effort to lift ourselves up and push forward together. To this day, we are hyper aware of our surroundings. To this day, we hear about similar tragedies. So today, we remember those we lost and honor them. We make sure that Cristina, Irimie, Richard Aspinwall, Mason Schermerhorn, and Christian Angulo are not forgotten. Our community was forever changed, but love has and will prevail. Thank you.
And finally, we'll hear from Leader Carolyn Hughley, leader of the Georgia House Democratic Caucus.
Good morning. Today marks 1 year since our state was forever changed by the heartbreaking tragedy at Apalachee. I want to start by saying that I'm thankful, a big thank you to all the survivors and to the parents who are here today. And I want you to know that today is not about politics, because today we remember the students, we remember the teachers, and we remember the families whose lives were torn apart on that devastating day. We grieve with those who lost loved ones, and we hold close to those who continue to carry the invisible wounds of trauma and loss. As a mother and grandmother, I cannot imagine the pain of sending a child to school and never seeing that child come home again. As you know, my goal as a grandmother is to be the first in line in the pickup line. That's what I want to do. When I leave this Capitol, that's my goal, to be the first in the pickup line for my grandson and my granddaughter, because I believe the classroom should be a place of safety and growth and not fear. Our children deserve better, and we owe it to them to do everything in our power to make sure that tragedies like this never happen again. I stand here as a legislator, but I also stand here as a grandmother and a gun owner. I know firsthand the responsibility that comes with that right, and I believe deeply that we can protect the Second Amendment and we can protect second graders at the same time. This is not a choice between respecting our constitutional rights and keeping our children safe. We must and we can do both. Anniversaries like this are never easy. They remind us of lives that were cut short far too soon. They remind us of futures that should have been filled with promise and joy. But they are also moments to come together, to honor the memory of those victims, to support the survivors, and to renew our shared commitment to building a safer Georgia for all of our children. The pain will never fully fade, but neither will the love that we hold for those that have been lost. May their memory guide us toward compassion and courage and action. And on behalf of the Georgia House Democratic Caucus, we stand ready to act. Thank you.
All right, and now we have some time to open up to any questions anyone might have for anyone who's here. Doug? Hey. So before I answer that question, I just want to say I'm speaking on behalf of me as a representative and of the House Democratic Caucus, and not on behalf of any of the students or the school. Okay, so just to delineate that. You're right that we've tried to pass a safe storage law and several different workarounds with that priority for several years. And I've been asked in the past, you know, every time it doesn't pass, so what are you going to change about the bill to help it pass this time? And my answer is basically the same. You can read the bill this year. It's HB 1. This is really easy to remember. It's a pretty short bill. It's very straightforward. It simply requires that any gun that can be accessed by a minor be stored securely. Sometimes what has to change is not the bill itself, because good policy is good policy. Sometimes what has to change is the culture around the issue. And I think that's something of what we're starting to see a little bit here in the state of Georgia. I'm not naive to the fact that this is a very recalcitrant issue. It's very entrenched. It's viewed as a partisan issue for reasons that perplex me consistently. But I think that in hearing stories of students like this who've been affected by an improperly stored firearm, in which the shooter was just 14 years old, it is natural to ask, how could this happen? How could a 14-year-old get access to this weapon unsupervised? What is a basic thing, a concrete solution that we have to prevent this from happening again? These are questions that sometimes it takes a story close to home to help people get out of that sort of partisan entrenchment. And we have seen some movement on the issue in the past 2 years. I will note that a bill that provides up to a $300 tax credit for purchase of safe storage equipment passed nearly unanimously out of the State House twice, this past year and the year before that, right? It got a little bit hung up in the Senate, and I hope that our Senate colleagues pick it up when we get back in January. But that's probably something that wouldn't have happened 5-10 years ago, right? So I do think that the culture is changing, and even though we always look to see did the bill pass or not as the end point, there are many, many things under the hood and under the surface that you can see that attitudes towards this issue, particularly with regards to safe storage, are evolving in this state. Thank you for that question. Yeah, Jeff. Yes.
I think this is a very delicate topic, but I think that we need a concerted effort for both recognizing that gun safety and that mental health they go hand in hand and they need to be prioritized. I also think that it's important for, all schools to have school resource officers as well. They were so important that day. Our law enforcement and our emergency response was so important. So I think it's important for other communities to listen to Barrow County and see what we were able to do. And I think parents just need to be engaged and invested in their children's schooling. I think that's something that we really don't focus on. And it's that parental responsibility to invest in their children. And no community has ever faulted for investing in their kids and in their future. Thank you.
Yes. Right, so thank you for that question. That was a bill that passed just this past session that restricts access to cell phones for kids up until the 8th grade. I think that high school is carved out, though individual schools, of course, can make their own rules, as they do now. I do think it's telling when we were debating this bill, and I think you're right that this bill is a balance between several different priorities, that when I was in my community talking to voters and my constituents, that usually, in fact, I would say even almost always, the first type of objection I would hear to the fact of this bill was, what if there's a school shooting? That was almost always the response I got, despite the fact that most parents do acknowledge the value of restricting access to cell phones during classroom instruction. Like that makes sense, right? But that fear is so pervasive and it's so reflexive that I think it tells us something about what we expect in our society, in our schools, and that a lot of us feel, whether we voice this or not, that when it comes to violence in schools and school shootings in particular, even though it is by far one of the rarest types of gun violence, that many people feel it's not a matter of if it happens in my school, but when, right? So, in terms of that law, it just really started in July, and school just got back at the beginning of August. So we'll see how that works out, and I'm sure there will be refinements, and individual schools will tinker with their own individual rules. But I think the fact that you ask it and the fact that so many parents think about it tells us what a pervasive problem this is. Any other questions? I don't know, I'm stepping away. Any other questions? So what we'll do is we will wrap up this portion of the press conference. If some of the invited speakers would like to be available for the press, they'll be here, but not everyone has to. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, right? But we'll be around here if anyone wants to ask any more questions. Thank you all for being here.
Are you sure you're okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Thank you all so much for being here. I know it's not easy. Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Check 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 10. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Check 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, cool. All right. So when you and I last saw each other, we talked about 268.
Yes.
And how it was a good start.
Yes.
Do you still feel that it was enough? That lawmakers still need to do more on the school safety front?
I think it is a great start.
Sorry.
No, sorry. I think HB 268 is a great start, and I'm hoping that they do expand more and looking into more of the threats that are being made across Georgia. I think we need to do something to really circumvent that from happening in our communities because they just keep happening, and we want to know where and what we can do to protect each school and each community. I'm hoping that, it's a good beginning. I know I saw Speaker John Burns say that, it's a beginning and a start. So I'm hoping, they continue that fight as well.
Thank you for watching ANF Plus. For more breaking news, live coverage, and your community stories, download the Atlanta News First app. You can also watch us on YouTube, Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. To join the conversation on YouTube Live, visit our channel and hit subscribe. You can also listen to the Atlanta News First podcast by searching Atlanta News First on your preferred listening platform.